Any minute now. Waiting for it. Waiting for that live button. Let's go.
There it is.
Hasn't popped up on my screen yet. Hang on. Maybe there's a delay. Potentially. Sam, you seeing it? Because I'm not. No.
I see it.
We're live right now. I can see it.
We're live. Okay. Well, you know what? Screw it. I don't know what's going on there. Sorry, guys. We're like waiting for the live button to show up. So I don't know if this is even going to air, but if it is, fantastic. Welcome to the TNT podcast, your number one tech podcast on everywhere. Twitter, I don't know, MySpace, OnlyFans, pretty much anywhere where you get good tech news and information. So, I'm getting crazy, amazing echo there. Okay, I love hearing my own voice come back.
Amazing.
And I love GIFs just popping up. For everyone at home who's listening on like Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can't see what we see, but every time that we click, like we say something, it pops up an amazing animated GIF and just keeps giving us these fancy things. But anyway, here we are. Another week, another big week in tech. And we got lots to talk about. So we're going to jump right in. I know you've probably seen a whole bunch of stories this week that have got your attention. But the big one that caught my attention, first and foremost, was let's talk iPhone first. So over the last week, there's been an absolute shitstorm of rumors and changes and leaks and everything regarding the iPhone 15 incoming. Now, the biggest one tends to be about the buttons, believe it or not. We're not talking about the cameras. We're not talking about the screen. We're not talking about the frame. We're talking about the buttons. So the buttons of the iPhone 15 Pro, as we've been discussing, were meant to be solid-state buttons. So now it looks like they're backtracking a little bit on solid-state buttons. They're talking about, originally it was going to be all solid-state buttons, as in like they were going to take away the mute switch and they were going to replace it with a button. They were going to use one long button for the volume. And now it's all back. I mean, it's all going back around. So basically, from what we can see now is that the volume buttons won't be solid-state buttons, but the mute switch will be. Dan, what do you think, buddy? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm not that into buttons.
I know, right? Like, why are we making such a big deal?
Well, it's iPhone.
Yeah, I guess.
You have to make a big deal about everything, you know.
So the article I was reading, I was just reading.
Yeah, I just don't get it. It's buttons.
So from what I understand, I think Apple's trying to channel the Apple Watch Ultra design as far as the buttons are concerned. Okay. So you may remember the
design language thing.
Yeah, the design language. I think they're trying to have some consistency. So, the whole big idea here, I guess, would be let's take the buttons, let's make them into actionable, programmable buttons. I think especially to do so with the mute switch. So the mute switch will be, yes, it can be used for a mute switch, but now maybe it'll have dual purpose. Maybe you can double click it and it opens up the camera, perhaps. Or it opens up your favorite app like Spotify or something like that. I think it's a good idea, but I would think it's going to look a little bizarre if you've got one solid state button on one side and the volume button separated on the other. And that's not very Apple-like. Tuna, what do you reckon, bud?
I think so Android has done this before. There's so many manufacturers and they experiment with so many different button combinations. But the reason why it's such a big deal for Apple is because when they change something, it's hot or cold. So to me, I don't really care. I have an iPhone. I very rarely use it. And if the buttons move around a little bit, I don't care. But I understand the concern because when they went from, touch to Face ID, it was like the world was coming to an end and, and then COVID hit. And if you wear a mask, you can't unlock your phone. You have to hit the code. I mean, it's an overreaction, something that's probably minor. And once it hits the streets, you have no choice. You gotta like what they give you. So it's gonna be fine. It doesn't bother me, but that's me personally.
Well, it's funny. A couple of people in the chat just said, yeah, I kind of like this comment. Apple is like a maximum inconvenience for a maximum price. And I think that's a really good way to describe
So
it.
true.
Probably spot on.
Very good grade.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, personally, I don't really think the buttons mean all that much. And I mean, I guess,
Right.
you know, it is that season. We're heading into May. People are starting to get that itch. Oh, you know, my iPhone, it's slow now. I can't, you know, it's getting slower. The
It's
software's
slow.
buggy. Yeah. And oh no, Apple released software to slow down my phone, so I need to upgrade, right? Which you know, whether you believe
I'm just
it or
more
not.
interested in if they're actually bringing any meaningful upgrades this time around. That's
Yes. So I mean, from
I
what
want
we
to see if they sort
understand,
out the camera problems and things like that. It's
I think they're going to
buttons-
introduce like a more dynamic island. It's going to be like a
Ooh.
peninsula,
Oh,
a
yeah.
dynamic
2 of 'em.
peninsula or something. You know, because you already own an island if you bought the iPhone 14 Pro. Now you can own
maybe
a
2
peninsula.
islands, one at the top and one at the bottom.
Ooh, I like
Maybe
that.
a,
idea.
a dynamic
New island.
archipelago. That'd be better for it.
Yeah,
Say
that
that
would be
real
good.
fast. This whole Apple thing is a solution chasing a problem.
It
Is
is.
anybody asking for
Yeah.
this? I mean, seriously, are we trying
No.
to solve some kind of hardware problem?
No.
I don't
Yeah.
think so. And
What's
so-
wrong
But
with
if you're an
it?
iPhone user,
Change for the sake of
if
it,
you're an
really.
iPhone user, you're going to have to like it. If it's true what they're saying,
Change for
you're
the
going to have
sake
to
of
like it.
change.
Yeah, no, I mean it's whatever. Like I said, I the only thing I care on an iPhone really at this point going forward is if they have USB-C. Once they go to
Yeah.
USB-C,
Which I think they will.
that's when I really pay attention. Until then, I'm not that interested in iOS or an iPhone. I don't care. And if it happens to be the 16 or the 17,
Agreed.
that's when
Yeah.
I care. Until then, I'm just not going to use it. So
So Charles
buttons
just
are
said here
not
in the
okay.
chat. Yeah, Charles just mentioned in the chat here about they're coming up with like air triggers, which could be interesting, and maybe if they're gonna push maybe a more gaming approach on
Nah.
the 15, maybe, but I
No.
don't think so. I don't know. But it goes to big to. I mean, Sam, you've mentioned this a few times that solid state buttons are fucking ridiculous. They rarely work the way they're supposed to.
Right.
And they have to be implemented in a very particular way. And, you know, the users have to get familiar with this new format before we do that, right? So I'm just
I mean,
not-
it was on the U12 Plus, and then the problem was that was really HTC's last, production, handset that was a flagship, right? So, and it wasn't in
Yeah.
carrier stores, and so I had a U12 Plus. I had an Exodus One, as a matter of fact. I had both.
yeah.
Had the same button. That was the crypto facing U12, which I wish I would have kept. It was kind of cool. Anyway, again, I just using them was weird. I mean, they had this really weird haptic click. It was kind of not,
Right.
and then when you're trying to, change the volume, you'd push it and it would register, but then there was a delay. But then sometimes it would be overly sensitive and it would double. Like it would double notch when you push it. It would kind of, again, the software and the implementation just was of the hardware was just a little disconnected. And I think if HTC would have been in the game, so I think Apple's implementation, by their history, will be better. Obviously, from a software and hardware perspective, they're going to definitely have a more, but like I said, when I used it on the U12 Plus, it just was one of the things about the device that I found to be, again, the device already had waterproofing. I don't understand the button. I mean, if you make a solid state button, then you have less, you have a better ingress protection. But the iPhone already has IPC. I mean, it's like, what? So again,
How long ago was that the U12 came out? 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago?
I'd say it's about 4 years ago. I think it was 2019.
So maybe technology's changed.
Yeah.
Apple tends to hold back a little bit and work on things. Maybe it is much better now, but the tactile feel of a haptic, they're known for their haptic feedback. So maybe they've done some magic and it will work out just fine.
Again, that's why that statement was qualified. I don't care. It's not
Right.
the time frame that refined it. I don't think that iPhone. I don't think it's because it's been 4 years, so it's a refinement of it. Apple is going to do a better implementation of it just because their haptic motors are better, their hardware is better, and they have a track record of bringing solid hardware to their devices as far as look and feel and fit and finish and function. Software, again, is where it falls apart a little bit. So they're definitely going to throw some
Can
energy.
we just
behind it.
appreciate for a second how good looking this phone is? Like, I
Such
know
a good-looking
HTC
phone.
always made
Such a
amazing
good-looking phone.
hardware.
It was
That- but
it was
transparent. That's what
spectacular.
sold me.
Yeah.
That was
It was
yeah,
cool.
and
Yeah.
I was and I know a lot of people didn't like the UI, but I was a real huge Sense fan. I love
was.
Sense UI. I liked the way the clocks worked. I just like Sense. I just loved HTC phones, and again, it just drives me crazy that they don't have it in the market anymore. But yeah,
Aren't they
this
the
is one
ones that
of them.
like the flip clock widget? That was like their thing, and that thing was.
Yeah.
I bought a phone just for that dang widget, so I was a huge fan.
It was
so.
my first Android phone, HTC. Yeah.
Yeah, I that was my first Android phone when I had an HTC One M7, the M7. That's the M8. But yeah, I like the fact that at one point I had an HTC One M8 for Windows and for Android. I had both devices.
Ah, interesting.
So it was kind of cool. I liked the way it was implemented on Windows Phone on the HTC. It was really cool. You got the best of both worlds, I thought. So it was kind
Of
of cool.
course.
So Tuna wants to know what's Apple going to call their invented solid state buttons. It's going to be some bullshit term. I'm curious to see what they're going
You
to
got to
call it.
use
button.
you got to use a
The
really
infinity button.
there you go. But it's got to be
Yeah.
a really
Because
explosive.
you can use
adjective.
whatever you program, whatever you want. It's infinite possibilities.
But like
Oh,
Dynamic
that's
Island,
nice.
you know.
there you go.
it's
I've
not-
done it for you. I've done it for your Apple.
Yeah,
Done.
he's done. Dan works for Apple. he's got it. He's
Apple
figured it
chill.
out for us. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure, like, Apple's, we all know Apple is a marketing machine. And, at the end of the day, they're going to come up, they're going to sell it like it's the greatest thing that's ever happened. And they invented solid state buttons. No other phone company before them had it.
Well, gaming
I've-
you mentioned have like those soft triggers on the top, and I
Yeah,
hate those
that's what I was-
things. Now they don't have as good of feedback, but I never liked them and I never used them. Your switches and your all these new gaming devices like the Steam Deck, they actually have physical buttons in the back, and it's a much better feel. I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting, but like I said, if you're an Apple person and you love Apple, it doesn't matter what they do. You're going to have to
buy it
like
anyway.
it. You're not going to have a real big choice on this, and it'll eventually grab mainstream attention, and everything will be just hunky dory, and we'll all live happily ever after.
Yeah, and I mean, I think at the end of the day, again, Apple's marketing machine is going to sell the hell out of it. People are going to buy it. And, in the United States, in Canada especially, if people that are listening in those areas, Apple products sell like wildfire. They could shit out a yellow iPhone and it still sells. So,
Wait, they have a yellow
curious to see what
iPhone?
happens.
When did that happen?
I don't know. That's what I heard. So...
I'm
But
sorry.
yeah, I don't know if anyone bought it. Apparently they did, but I guess we'll find out, right? So, speaking of Apple, sorry, go ahead.
So Roddy's having some technical difficulties. I think that's why he bowed out. He was
okay.
messaging me something. I don't know what's going on.
So I was really just before we came on air, there was an article that caught my attention today on Engadget. So Apple is big into the environmental space. I don't know if you know this.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Apple's gonna change the world. They're gonna turn around global warming. They're gonna stop the food shortage crisis. Poverty is gonna disappear.
All with this, a charger.
All with yes, exactly.
Yep.
With their environment. So there was an article that came out on Engadget today talking about. It said that Apple's batteries will use 100% recycled cobalt by 2025. Okay, so basically, Apple's coming out. They're promising eco-friendly batteries. By 2025, they're going to be 100% recycled. All in-house circuit board designs will use recycled gold plating, tin soldering. They're promising basically, from what it says in this article here, they were saying that they want to be carbon neutral by 2030. So
they need to be slave neutral. That's what they need.
Well, there's that too. Yeah. So what I was getting
it's all
at
well and
is
good recycling the cobalt, but if you're using slaves to mine the damn stuff.
Well, it's funny that you say that, Dan, because the article says here, it actually talks not just about that side of things, but also how the mining of cobalt's actually quite a dangerous process. It says here that the mining of process contaminates air, earth, water, and can lead to health issues for miners and the general population.
Kids doing it with their bare hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. And I mean, I find it very ironic that you've got this massive tech company who basically is promising this environmental revolution, right? They're going to change the world. This is it. And yet the batteries that they're going to be having in their phones by 2025 are going to have killed thousands of people because of the dangerous mining practices of cobalt. I don't know. I find that interesting. You know, like they're pushing this.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no plastic. We're recycled cardboard.
It's all tech companies, though. It's all of them. It's not.
100%. It's not just Apple, but
Apple sticks out because they're a big company. And I made a joke before we got on, but it doesn't matter what they do with cobalt because if they save the whales with charging, then it offsets them.
Yeah.
But it's not funny, but it is funny. Like these companies
100%.
can't do anything. Companies can't do anything right now. To be honest with you, it seems like they're all climbing a mountain right now, and no matter what they do, it seems like someone's out there ready to pounce on them for something. But yeah, I didn't read that article. That's just something I'm gonna have to look into because cobalt, if it is mined like you're saying, it doesn't make much sense that Apple would jump, both feet into something
mined,
like that.
Mostly by hand.
And
people just don't have adequate tools or anything, so they're all getting poisoned. They're all dying from it.
Right.
Of course.
And,
right?
it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
But the iPhone will be environmentally friendly with their clean energy and their cobalt batteries, right?
I think this right here is going to be the next iPhone.
Yeah, that's it. It's just going to be about, You know what? I can't wait for this because you know what's coming. When Apple goes, we're now using recycled plastic for the body of our phones. It's going to look like an iPhone 5C, right? And everything's going to be recycled plastic.
Bring back polycarbonate.
The metal's going to disappear. Yeah.
Bring it back.
I'd just be curious to see.
I'm okay with polycarbonate plastic as long as it's done right.
Yes,
like
agreed.
Lumia polycarbonate.
Like the Nexus 5, or Nexus 5,
Yes.
Jesus, the Pixel 5 with that like metal with brush.
Oh yeah.
Because you could use
I had no
wireless
problems with
charging
that.
still. Yeah, that was an interesting. Yeah, that's just my.
I kind of wish that more companies experimented with, of course we have like that glass sandwich scenario, right? Like it's always glass on the front, glass on the back. And Grady's just saying here, one of the largest e-waste creators is going to offer you recycled goods for new device prices. How lovely, yeah. And that's exactly my point, right? Like you've got these companies who are promising the world. And, that they're going to change. It's going to be revolutionary. The world's going to be a better place because of us and we're in it. And then here we are, with people who are literally losing their lives to mine the materials that are going into it. And this is a systemic issue. Yeah. It's not just Apple, like you guys said.
For sure.
But it's kind of curious that, they're pushing this, and this just came out today because they wanted to have, because of Earth Day coming up, they're pushing this whole message coming out, but it was, Engadget was the one who added in that, I guess, disclaimer, if you will, saying, hey, it's all well and good to say you're going to have cobalt batteries, but just so you know, people are going to die doing it. Just interesting kind of chaos. All right, let's switch out of Apple and leave them alone for a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about the Pixel. So we got right now, if you've been paying attention on Twitter lately, the Pixel 6a is on a fire sale. You can pick them up for pretty much nothing. Usually a good indicator that the 7a is on its way. I think early May is when it's expected. I forget the date. But we saw some leaks come out this week where they're looking at a new, now I'm going to say new color here, but if you think right back to the original Pixel, there was a blue version of the original Pixel, but some renders came out. I'll pull it up on screen.
I think you're right.
I think there was a 3A or something, weren't there, that was a similar sort of blue to this, apparently.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of trying to pull up an image here. I think this is the one. So let me see if I can pull up an image of what it may look like, allegedly. So this is the alleged Pixel design-ish. I don't know if this is the 7 or the 7A or whatever. I think this is just a basic general idea.
Is that gradient? Is that a gradient color, like from light to dark?
I don't know. Maybe. Again, I think this is like leaked, designed, and renders. I think this might be a better look. Hang on one second. Let's share this.
I don't know. You know what I hear already people saying?
There you go.
That's the one.
I hear people saying that the chin and the top bezel are not symmetrical, so I'm done. I'm done. It's over.
Bezels, man.
Yeah.
Sam, we can't hear you.
4A had the barely blue.
There you go. It was
the
orange
one.
one. Barely blue.
Yeah,
that's barely blue.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like yellow.
I think it looks good.
I think so too, Roddy.
Yeah,
I was just
I
going to
like
say
it.
that. Like, I think it actually is a nice color, and I always said, like, you know, if you think about like the blue iPhones being quite successful, just yeah, we just
Very
got
nice.
a Borat
Very
GIF there,
nice.
just for the
Very-
record.
I am liking Pixel for most glorious
Oh.
benefits of Pixel. Very nice. Whoa, whoa,
like
whoa, whoa.
Very nice.
Here in
So
Kazakhstan.
I find it.
Yeah.
I find it so funny that, like, you know, that Google's kind of taken a page from Apple here, and you know, we all know that Apple's blue iPhones tend to sell pretty well. I think what was the last year's one? The 13 Pro Blue, was that Pacific Blue?
Yeah, yeah.
See, if Google really
yeah,
wants to
Sierra,
succeed,
Sierra Blue.
they need a
Blue.
banana
Yeah,
yellow.
Sierra
They need,
Blue,
they,
thanks.
they need a
That was
banana
quite
yellow, or they're not going to do it. They're not going to do well without a banana yellow. And
Agreed.
in the
Agreed.
commercial,
It's not
and
particular,
I have a unique, you know, for the commercial, they should have someone hold the phone and then turn into an animated character and walk around taking pictures. I'm just throwing it
Well,
out there.
yeah, I mean, that's some good marketing from Apple there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's. What do you think the color's going to be called? I didn't see any.
I think what Sam said, that whatever it was
Almost
called
blue.
before, yeah, almost blue or
What was that?
classic
Sorry,
blue.
Or
Dan?
like West Coast blue.
Yeah,
Here's the thing.
almost blue.
Hot take. I don't give
Almost
a shit
blue?
what color the phones are.
Yeah.
To do with the sky.
I mean, seriously.
I'm
first of
surprised,
all-
Sam.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
Right, I know, hot take, right?
Yeah.
First of all,
Hot
are you
take.
rocking it? Are you rocking a clear case or are you rocking naked? And if the answer is
Naked.
no,
That's
and
naked.
no, no,
Yeah.
I'm saying on your day to day, are you
Oh.
going to use any
Oh.
phone
Naked.
Yes,
totally naked?
clear
And-
case.
okay, well,
Naked.
right.
I always
and
wear clear cases.
If you are, then you are. But if you're not, the color's not really relevant.
Exactly.
Well,
It
because
doesn't
when I bought
matter.
my phone, I like
Sure.
this hazel one. I bought it because it was hazel. If I put a solid
yeah.
color on it, what's the point?
Right.
Exactly.
But I'm
yeah.
saying most people.
Right.
Everybody-
You're right.
When I
You're right.
do yourself a favor, walk through your local grocery store or walk in a park and look around. Most people are
Black
using
cases.
a case that either totally obscures the color
Yep.
or is blinged out or whatever. And so not everybody uses a clear case. If you do, cool. I usually try to, but since I don't sometimes, like on my
Well,
Huawei, it's a yellow
Right. Yeah.
TPU case.
It's kind of an
black.
offshoot, but like that Oppo X6
Yeah.
Pro, it has a leather orange, and they had a
Yeah.
case included in the box that has
Oh,
the
yeah.
same exact color. So you're
I like
protecting
that.
it, and you can
Yeah.
kind of afford that color look. I
Yeah,
think
and
that's
so
kind of
what
interesting.
I'm saying is if you have like an OEM case from that manufacturer and they they give you like a hard case, like I would like to see Google come out with a fabric case that was this blue kind of color.
Oh, yeah.
That would just kind of
Ooh,
like,
that
I
would be
would-
nice.
that would be a
Yes.
case to get into because that way, even if you don't get the blue, you can kind of fake the blue because you can kind of throw the blue on there and it's still.
Did
that
you guys
fabric.
like how the
Yeah.
fabric case is kind of like not patinaed, but like kind of
wear.
should wear?
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
that's
that.
why I
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
leather.
Yeah.
It's because
Yeah.
it,
Like
it
leather,
shows wear,
right.
and it's not
Right.
it's not dirt.
Patina.
It's just use.
That's-
It's
Strong
such
term.
a good. Yeah, I loved that they. Why is it that everything I love they stopped doing? Windows Phone, HTC,
Same.
I'm the same.
got really, like, why is it that it's like when I find a good thing at a restaurant, you go back in 6 months, like, oh, we discontinued it. I'm like, it was
Just
one
say
of the
you hate
best
it.
things yeah.
Say
Yeah,
this phone is hideous. It's
Right, but-
ugly, and then you'll keep it going.
I really liked the fabric cases. I thought for the Pixel line, I thought those were really slick. I really liked
Agreed.
that.
I agree.
Something
too.
Especially
different.
for grip. Like just having in the hand feel, having some grip. Like, I mean, most of these are like slippery, plastic or glass
Yes.
designs. I mean, for me personally, like, I'm a clumsy fuck. I'm going to drop my phone no matter what if I don't have a case on it, right? And I mean, it doesn't have to be the most heaviest case, but, just something that's got some grip on the sides. It needs to have something. But I could understand why people would want to go clear case on this one. Like, that's a beautiful looking phone.
It is.
And I mean,
Yeah.
you know that Google is very good with their designs of like the latest, 7 and even the 6 to a large extent. And I think this design language is what's going to stick around for a little longer. From what we see, the rumors of the 7 or the 8 and 8 Pro. So they're talking about a smaller 8 and a similar size 8 Pro. And I think there's some slight changes on the Pro model to the camera bar. I think instead of
I think they
some
need to
changes.
keep the 8 Pro and the 8. They need to keep the cameras, everything the same, just the size. Kind of like
Yes.
the 8,
Yeah.
the 14 Pro. Well, the 14 Pro and 14 Pro Max do have some slight camera differences, I believe. Nothing major. But I think
Yeah.
that would make it a better sell because it seems like if you want a smaller phone, you're going to make a sacrifice because they, when they, what was the Google Pixel they introduced? It didn't have the wide angle. They had a zoom instead, saying people preferred zoom.
4XL.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they came out
Yeah.
and now they have both. So, but if you want, I don't know. I mean, I like wide angle, but I also like the optical periscope zoom.
Yeah,
as
I like the
well.
zoom.
Yes.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
I just kind of feel like
strength.
they're trying to sort of differentiate the two
They are.
models for some reason, even though they're both, you know.
Well,
The
you
pretty
can
much
have a
same.
low.
Well, I
You
mean,
can have a
like-
lower DPI. You can have a lower
Yeah.
resolution. You can have 1080p for all I care in the smaller one and the big one. I just think maybe
Yeah.
it's a size constraint because the
Just give it
iPhone
a
14
smaller
Pro,
telephoto or something.
the Pro and Pro Max don't have periscope zoom, so they have maybe that's
Yeah.
one of the issues is the space for that periscope. So I don't know.
So
We'll see what
what I'm curious, what I was going to say, what I'm curious about is that, so you've got this Pixel 7a that's coming out, and from what we know so far about, specs and everything like that, I mean, it looks like it's a direct competitor to its own phone, the Pixel 7. Like we're talking
Yeah.
90 hertz display, OLED screen, dual cameras. I'm just not sure if this is a good idea. Like you're going to butcher one of your, pro version line phones for the sake of a budget phone. And I mean, I guess that might drive up sales because we know that the A series for Pixel tends to sell quite well.
I think it sells
does
better
that
than
mean
that's why.
Oh, maybe it does. Yeah, maybe it does. But
Mhm.
I just find it very bizarre that usually there's some omissions, but from what I can see here, and we don't know for sure yet, it looks pretty much like a 7. 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. Like, it
Do you remember?
pretty much looks like a
Don't
7.
you remember the MKBHD video when he did the 6A and it kept winning all those blind tests and it had a 12 megapixel camera on it? I think it
Yeah.
really just depends on what you want, and I think the average consumer can grab this. I keep saying that term, but like a general phone that's not made of glass, that's not going to break very easily, and it's a reasonable price. It's if you enjoy Google services, it's going to have everything you need, and you can point and shoot and take a picture. It's not going to be blurry because someone's moving. I mean,
far more practical. It's far more
Yeah,
practical.
far
for
more
general
practical,
people.
yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, again, I just don't know. Like, I mean, I know Adita here just said, why don't these devices sell out an iPhone? Like, Apple and Samsung need to give a reality check, but sadly, your North American market is just too plain, right?
Oh, Patrick, you made him cry. Come on.
Sorry. But it's a fair point, right? I mean,